Welcome to another lesson of mastering positional techniques, and today we're going to be looking at other methods. So that's how the chapter called other methods, and the first concept is letting the opposing plan come to nothing. So let's take a look at the following position. Black is planning to free the bishop on c8 after d takes c4 and then e6 e5. Then they're trying to recapture with the knight in the center, and then the bishop will be opened. So white decide to do a preventive move. They play c takes d5 themselves. Now after e takes d5, which was played in the game, it looks like our bishop on d2 is terrible, so we play rook f e1. Taimanov was playing with white, but Winnik was playing with black. Here e4 is a huge threat. White are trying to strike in the center. Queen goes to d8. We still go e4, and after d takes e4, knight e4, h6, queen c1, white got a huge attack. Now let's take a look at the second example. Same pawn structure, same plan, d takes e4, and then try to play 5. That's actually a common idea in these structures, and that's why sometimes white really want to play c takes d5 themselves, and that's exactly what happened in this game. C takes d5, c takes d5, and after castle, white have control over c file. The bishop on c8 still needs to be developed somehow. e5 might be an option, but don't forget that after e5 there will be an isolated pawn on d5. So now black have to come up probably with different ways to deal with this c8 bishop problem, and white have a slight advantage. Now let's take a look at the very exciting example. Khan was playing against Lisitsa, and here in the following position it looks like this pawn is about to be captured, and black have a lot of pressure on this pawn, and if b3 was to be played, there is knight e4 and there's a huge pin on this a1 h8 diagonal. So there is a different way to deal with this pin. First, white play e5. So they're trying to make sure black's plan doesn't work. So d takes e5 was played, and now b3. And now, after we played d5, we blocked the diagonal for the bishop, and now those pieces look ugly. Black still have a small advantage, but that's fine. Knight d7 was played in the game. Bishop b2, queen s6, rook a d1. All our pieces are very well coordinated, while this pawn is kind of bad in the center, and eventually white will recapture it. Knight d5, knight d5, knight d5, bishop b2, queen b2. Black played f5, protecting e4 pawn, and after queen a3, white, despite the position being equal, white have some pressure to threaten f3 and potentially take on e7. That's somewhat unpleasant position to be in, and yes, there is just more pleasant to play with white. Now let's take a look at the next concept of this video, and the final concept of this video. This video will be shorter than others. You can go check out previous videos. This one will be slightly shorter. The next concept is will be seen in a second. The principle of the weaknesses is probably one of the most important concepts in chess, and I'm not overreacting it. It's the truth. So sometimes you gotta attack something, and let's say your opponent has one weakness, then it's very hard to capture it, to attack it. But when the opponent has two weaknesses, it has to defend both, and sometimes it's extremely tough to do so, and eventually what happens is one of these weaknesses is falling. In the following case, we have b pass pawn, and we have potential pressure on the king side. Alekhine was playing against Samish, and bishop d3 was played by Alekhine. He is trying to press the king side. King c7, g4, king f7, h4, knight b6, h5, takes, bishop b4, h6. So now, what you might ask, where are two weaknesses? So the two weaknesses in this specific case is pawn on h7 and our pawn on b4. Because let's say we get queens of the board. Black not only have to protect h7 pawn at all times, but they also have to be taken care of b2 pawn, which will be promoted on b file with the help of our king. We'll just play b4, king b2, king b3, b5, king b4, king a5, king a6, b6, b7, b8. So in this case, if white get the queens off the board, this is a completely winning position, and that's what Alekhine managed to do. Queen b5, king d3, now queen h7 is a threat, so black decided to make a trade, knight c8, bishop h7, knight e7, king c1, f5, looks like the bishop is trapped, but once again, two weaknesses, and in this case, f5 weakness, and b4 is about to be promoted, so there are two things that have to be defended. b5, king a6, and now bishop j8 just wins the game. King d1 was played. Actually, bishop g8, I'm not sure why it wasn't played, because h7 just wins. Why it wasn't played? It's just the easiest option. For some reason, king d1 was played, king d6, f4. I'm actually not sure. It could be the wrong notation, but bishop j8 just seemed like an easier option, but here it doesn't matter. Just to show you, even in this case, the principle of two weaknesses. In this case, it's two attackers. b5, h6. Black can't just defend both from promotion. It is a win. So let's take a look at the following endgame. We will see two similar endgames, which both played surprisingly by Karius. He was playing with black pieces in both games, and you'll see the second position and be like, isn't it the same game? No, it's not. So here, black are trying to create weaknesses. It's not, of course, it's not black to move, because otherwise we would capture the pawn. So a3 was played, and we created first weakness on b3, a5. So we created the first weakness, now we gotta think of creating the second weakness. So what black do, they get the king to e5, and after g5, king e2, bishop f5, now they're trying to chase this pawn as well. g4 was played, and after bishop b1, king f3, f5, black's position is completely winning. Let's just analyze maybe something like bishop e2, bishop c2. So this bishop can't move, and if king g3 was to happen after g4, and if king g4, there is king f4, and we're about to capture this pawn. If king h5, king f3, king h6, king f4, and the position is slowly winning. We're trying to get this. If h4 was to be played, g takes h4, king h4, and now a king simply walks to c3 and wins the game. The final position looks very similar to what we just saw Karius was playing against Khan. And once again, you see similar structure, b3 weakness and h3 weakness. So now what Karius did, he fixed this weakness on h3 square. After king f3, king e6, bishop g4, bishop f5, we're transposing to the winning pawn endgame f6, and white simply resigned. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you understood some of the principles. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions regarding this, and I'll see you in the next video next week. Bye bye.